Hey everyone. It seems like AI is everywhere you turn these days.
Yeah,
And for good reason. I mean, it's changing so much about how we do things.
absolutely.
But today, we're really going to focus on how it's changing the game for all you programmers out there,
Yeah, very exciting stuff.
specifically with these AI coding assistants.
Right, the ones that are like,
Yeah,
we'll just write the code for you.
yeah, like that even possible.
Yeah.
So we're going to take a deep dive into comparing and contrasting four of the most talked about AI assistants out there.
Okay.
ChatGPT, Gemini, AlphaCode, and GitHub Copilot. We've got a whole stack of research papers here,
Sounds good.
and we're going to help you make sense of it all.
It's a really fascinating time to be in software development because these tools are really evolving so quickly,
Yeah.
and they could totally change the way that we approach coding in a really, really fundamental way.
Okay, so before we get into the specifics of each of these AI assistants, maybe we can kind of like take a step back and talk about like what's driving this whole AI coding revolution. I keep hearing about LLMs. What are those?
Yeah, so LLM stands for large language model.
Sure.
Basically, it's a type of artificial intelligence that's trained on a massive amount of text data.
Right.
And all this training lets them understand and generate human-like text in a way that was like totally unimaginable before, really?
So it's like, are these LLMs kind of like super powered versions of that old autocomplete we used to have?
Uh-huh.
But instead of just suggesting words, they can like write entire lines of code,
Yeah,
even whole programs.
exactly. And the speed at which these tools are being adopted is honestly, it's mind-blowing.
Right. It's
Like
great.
ChatGPT hit 100 million users in just 2 months after it launched.
Oh, wow.
I mean, that's faster than almost any technology in history.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
So it really does feel like everyone's kind of jumping on this AI coding bandwagon. But what makes these LLMs so good at understanding and generating code?
Well, a lot of it comes down to their underlying architecture, which is something called a transformer.
Transformer.
Like in the movies? Haha, not quite.
Okay.
No explosions here, thankfully. But just think of the transformer as like a way for the AI to process information.
Okay.
Instead of going word by word, it actually looks at the relationships between words, even if they're really far apart in a sentence.
So it's like how our brains work,
Yeah.
right? We don't just like read one word at a time. We understand the context of the whole sentence to get the meaning.
Exactly, precisely. And that ability to understand context is what lets these AI assistants do really cool things like generate more accurate and relevant code, translate languages, write all these different creative text formats.
Okay, so now that we kind of have like the basics down,
Yeah.
let's start diving into each of these specific AI coding assistants, starting with ChatGPT.
Yeah.
It feels like, I don't know, everyone's talking about this one. Like, what's all the hype about?
Yeah, ChatGPT is definitely the one that has like captured the public imagination the most, I would say.
Yeah.
It's really well known for generating this really like human-like text, which is pretty amazing to begin with. But what's particularly interesting for programmers is that it can remember your entire conversation with it
Oh, wow.
using something called a context window.
So it's almost like you're having a conversation with a coding buddy who's actually listening to what you're saying
Exactly.
and remembers. So you don't have to repeat yourself.
1,000 times.
Yeah, no more repeating yourself.
Hmm.
So it makes that interaction a lot more natural and you can actually like build on ideas
Right.
just like you would with a human collaborator.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's not just about generating code. It can even be used like in medical context, believe it or not. It had a median rating of 5.5 out of 6 when used as a medical assistant.
That's pretty impressive.
It really is.
Okay, so ChatGPT sounds pretty amazing.
Yeah, yeah.
But I'm curious, what about Google's Gemini? How does that kind of compare to ChatGPT? So Gemini is really, really interesting because it goes way beyond just text. Like it can actually work with images, audio, video, and code all together.
Wow. So it's like multi-talented?
Yeah.
Can do it all.
Totally. So, instead of just writing code based on text prompts, you could actually show it a design mockup or even a video, and it would generate the code for you,
Oh, wow.
which is pretty wild.
That's amazing. So it's almost like Gemini is the like multi-talented AI that can juggle all these different kinds of media
Yeah.
and still like produce code. What else sets it apart?
One key differentiator is that it actually has a built-in fact checker.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's a big deal because it means that it's designed to actually verify the information it's using,
Right.
which could lead to like way more reliable code.
That makes sense. You don't want to like using false information
Exactly.
to write your code. And it also comes in like different model sizes, right? Ultra, Pro, and Nano.
Right.
What's up with that?
So that's really about giving users choices. Depending on what you need and what your resources are, you can pick a model size that fits.
Ah,
If you're working on some really complex task, you might need the biggest, most powerful engine, which would be Ultra. If you're just getting started, maybe you're just doing something small.
yeah.
Maybe you just need a Nano.
Okay, so it's like choosing like an engine for your car.
Yeah, exactly.
Got it. Okay, so we've got ChatGPT, which is like the rock star.
Uh-huh.
We've got Gemini, which is like the multi-talented virtuoso.
Uh-huh.
What's next in our AI coding assistant lineup?
Next up is AlphaCode, and this one's all about solving like really, really tough programming challenges. Like, think of it as the brainy problem solver of the group.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more about what makes AlphaCode so special.
So AlphaCode is designed specifically to be really good at competitive programming.
Okay.
So it was actually tested in a real coding competition on Codeforces, which is a platform where tons of programmers are competing.
Oh, wow.
And it did incredibly well. It ranked above the average competitor.
So it was actually going head to head with humans.
Yes.
Wow, that's really impressive.
And what's even more remarkable is that it's still under development.
Oh, wow.
So it's like this rising star with tons of potential.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so we got the rock star, the multi-talented one, the brainy problem solver,
Yeah.
who's our final contender in this AI coding assistant showdown.
Last but not least, we have GitHub Copilot. So think of this one as the helpful teammate that's always there to give you a hand with your code.
Okay.
It's designed to boost developer productivity by giving code suggestions and auto completions, but right there in your code editor.
So instead of like constantly having to search online for documentation or examples,
Yeah.
it's almost like having this coding encyclopedia
Yeah.
right there in your workflow.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it, but it's even smarter than that. It actually learns from the context of your code.
Oh.
So it analyzes what you've already written, and then it uses that info to offer these tailored suggestions.
So the more you use it, the better it gets at understanding you
Exactly.
and like what you're trying to do. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And unlike some other tools that might just give you a one way to solve a problem, Copilot often gives you multiple suggestions.
Okay.
So you can pick the approach that fits your style in the project.
So it's more like a teammate offering like
Yeah.
different perspectives
Yeah.
and helping you figure out different solutions
Exactly.
instead of just being like, this is the right way to do it.
Right, exactly.
Okay. And I've read that it's been shown to outperform both ChatGPT and Gemini when it comes to boosting developer productivity.
Yeah, and that makes sense because Copilot is specifically designed to work in the context of your code
Right.
and give really detailed, really relevant suggestions. So that helps programmers write code faster and with fewer errors.
Yeah, okay. So we've got these four very different AI coding assistants,
Yeah,
each
true.
with their own strengths and approach. But how do we actually measure like how good they are?
Right.
I mean, it can't just be about who wins in a coding competition.
Yeah, totally. So researchers use a lot of different methods to evaluate these AI assistants, but two key metrics that they use a lot are pass at K and test case pass rate.
Okay, those sound very technical. Can you kind of break those down for us?
Yeah, for sure. So pass at K basically measures how often the AI can generate code that passes all the tests for a problem within a certain number of tries.
Okay.
So pass at 1 means the AI gets it right on the first try, which is ideal. And the higher the K value, the more attempts the AI gets.
Okay.
The other metric, test case pass rate, looks at how many of the specific tests the code passes. So this gives us an idea of how robust the AI is, can it handle those real world scenarios where your code needs to work in a ton of different situations.
So pass a K is like testing the AI's overall ability to solve the problem.
Yeah.
And the test case pass rate is more about making sure the code is really solid and reliable.
Exactly. And to make things even more interesting, researchers use these things called benchmarks,
Oh.
like Human Evil, Leet Code, and Natural Code Bench, to test the AI assistants in all these different scenarios. For example, the GPT-4 Turbo 0125 model of ChatGPT reached a pass at one accuracy of 87.2% on Human Evil. That means almost 9 out of 10 times it generated code that works perfectly on the first try.
Wow. Okay, those are some pretty impressive stats.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got a good handle on how these AI assistants are evaluated. But can we dig a little deeper into how they're actually being used in the real world? I'm curious, how is ChatGPT, with its conversational abilities and its impressive text generation, How's it changing the game for programmers?
Well, one area where ChatGPT is having a huge impact is in code documentation.
Okay.
Traditionally, writing documentation for your code, it's kind of a chore.
Yeah, it's not the most fun
It's
part
not the most fun part.
of the job.
But with ChatGPT, you can literally have a conversation with it, asking it to like explain stuff in plain English.
Oh, yeah.
So you don't have to spend hours poring over these dense technical documents. You can just chat with ChatGPT and get a clear explanation of what a piece of code is doing.
So it's like having an AI tutor who's explaining, all these complicated concepts and making it much easier to understand. I mean, that could be so helpful, not just for like individual programmers, but also for like teams working on large projects.
Absolutely.
Right. Because if everyone understands the code, there's going to be fewer errors.
Yeah,
It'll be a much smoother development process
for sure.
overall.
Yeah, and it could also be a game changer for open source projects,
Oh, yeah, that's true.
making it way easier for new contributors to understand the code base and like jump in and help out.
Yeah, because the more people who can contribute, the faster the innovation.
Exactly.
And the more collaboration, the better.
Exactly. And it's not just about generating new documentation. It can actually help you improve your existing documentation
Okay.
by like identifying areas that are unclear, maybe it's outdated, or maybe you're missing something important.
So it's like an AI editor.
Yeah, it's like an AI editor for your code docs.
Okay, that's cool. Speaking of breaking down barriers, I'm curious about how ChatGPT's language abilities are being used to make code more accessible to people who speak different languages.
Yeah, that's another exciting area. Like, imagine taking code comments or documentation that's written in one language and then having ChatGPT translate them into another language, but it's still, like, technically accurate and it preserves the context.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, that would be a game changer for global collaboration, right?
Yeah,
So you have developers all over the world working together,
even if they don't speak the same language.
even if they don't speak the same language.
Wow.
So it just opens up all these opportunities for knowledge sharing and collaboration across, different cultures and regions.
Yeah, that's really cool. Okay, so ChatGPT's, rocking the code documentation world, helping bridge language barriers. But what about Gemini? We talked about its ability to work with different types of media. How is that being used to, like, enhance the coding process?
So one area where Gemini is really shining is bridging the gap between design and development.
Okay.
Imagine a designer creating like a website layout
Yeah.
or a mobile app interface, and they're using some visual design tool.
Yeah, you can picture that, like, dragging and dropping elements.
Yeah, picking colors.
Yeah, creating a beautiful, user-friendly experience.
Yeah, exactly. But then turning that visual design into actual functional code, that's always been this really tedious, error-prone process, and that's where Gemini steps in.
So instead of having to, like, manually write all this code for every little button,
Right.
and image, and text box, the designer could just, like, feed their design into Gemini, and it would just do it for them.
Exactly. Gemini basically acts as this bridge between visual design and code, and it automates that whole translation process, which saves developers a ton of time and effort.
Okay, so that would be really powerful.
Yes,
It could really streamline that whole design to development workflow
exactly.
and let designers and developers work together more seamlessly
Absolutely.
and get their ideas out there faster.
Totally.
Okay. And it's not just limited to, like, static designs either, right? I mean, Gemini is also being explored for its ability to understand and respond to,
Yeah.
like, dynamic visual input,
Yeah.
like video or real-time camera feeds.
Yeah, and that's where things get really futuristic.
Right. Like, what are some examples of, like, how that could be applied in the real world?
So think about like robotics, right? You're developing an application where you need to control the robot's movements based on what it's seeing in the environment.
Okay.
You could use Gemini to process that real-time video feed from the robot's camera, identify objects and obstacles, and then generate the code that tells the robot how to like move around safely.
So it's almost like Gemini is the robot's eyes and brain, helping it perceive the world and make decisions.
Exactly. And the potential applications go way beyond robotics.
Yeah, like where else?
Like imagine using it to create augmented reality experiences where virtual objects are interacting with the real world in real time,
Oh, wow.
or using it to analyze medical scans
Oh, wow.
to assist with surgical procedures.
Okay, so it really could change, like, a lot of things. It
Yeah.
could, like, blur the lines between the digital and physical world in some really amazing ways.
It totally could, yeah. But let's not get too carried away with all the flashy applications.
Right, yeah.
At the end of the day, it's still about writing good, solid code.
Yeah.
And that's where alpha code, with its focus on those complex programming challenges, really comes into play.
Okay, so we've talked about how AlphaCode can compete with human programmers,
Hmm.
even win these coding competitions. But how does that translate into like real world applications?
Well, one area where AlphaCode's strength in algorithmic thinking is really valuable is optimizing code performance. You know how sometimes you write a piece of code and it works, but it's just kind of slow?
Oh yeah, definitely been there. And you try to make it faster, but it's like you're just shifting the slowness around. You're not really fixing the problem.
Exactly. And that's where AlphaCode can really help. You can just feed it your code and it'll analyze it, find areas for improvement, and then suggest these optimizations that'll make your code run like way faster and more efficiently.
So it's like having an AI code reviewer who's
Yes.
also like an expert in performance optimization.
Yeah.
I mean, I could see that being really valuable, especially for people who are developing like games or high traffic websites where performance is critical.
Totally. And because it's been trained on this massive data set of code, it can often identify patterns and solutions that a human programmer might miss.
Right. So it's like having access to like the collective knowledge of thousands of programmers all distilled into this one powerful AI.
Yeah, it's a great way to put it. And its capabilities go beyond just optimizing existing code. It can actually help generate entirely new algorithms and data structures.
So if I'm working on a project that requires like a really specialized algorithm, I could use AlphaCode to help me design it.
Exactly. It's like having an AI partner who can help you push the boundaries of what's possible with code.
That's pretty cool. It really seems like AlphaCode is changing the game when it comes to like tackling those really challenging coding problems that require like a lot of creativity and problem solving skills.
Hmm.
But what about GitHub Copilot? We talked about how it can boost developer productivity, but like, how does that actually work in practice?
So GitHub Copilot is designed to just like fit right into your coding workflow. It lives in your code editor, in like Visual Studio Code, offering suggestions and auto completions as you type.
So it's not like a separate application you have to switch between.
Right.
It's right there with you,
Right in there, like working alongside you.
like a coding buddy.
Yeah, like a button.
Okay. And how like intuitive is it? Like how does it actually work?
So as you're typing like a variable name or a function or even a comment, Copilot is analyzing the context of your code and suggesting what you might be trying to do.
So it's like an autocomplete,
Yeah.
but it's not just based on the words you've already typed. It's based on like your whole style,
Right.
the structure of your project.
It takes it all into account. And it's not just like completing individual words or lines of code. It can actually generate entire code blocks,
Sure.
functions, even classes based on your descriptions or comments.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's really powerful.
So I could write a comment that like outlines the functionality I need,
Yeah,
and Copilot could just generate the code for me.
pretty much. It's like having a pair programming partner who can instantly translate your thoughts into code.
Okay, but even with Copilot doing all this heavy lifting,
Uh-huh.
it still feels like there's a missing piece.
Okay.
Like, what if I could just talk to it? You know, like
Yeah.
have a real back and forth conversation with my AI coding buddy.
You're in luck because that's exactly what GitHub is working on
Oh, cool.
with their latest iteration of Copilot called Copilot X.
Okay.
They're integrating voice and chat interfaces, so you literally will be able to talk to it and get feedback and suggestions and even like explanations
Wow.
of complicated code concepts.
So it's like having an AI coding tutor
Exactly.
right there in your ear, guiding you through every step.
Yeah.
Okay, so are there any other exciting developments kind of on the horizon for Copilot X?
Oh, yeah, for sure. They're also looking at putting AI right into pull requests and documentation and even command line interfaces.
Wow.
Imagine being able to use your voice to like navigate your code base or run tests or even write commit messages.
It sounds like the whole software development lifecycle is like being transformed by AI.
Yeah,
But with all this talk about, AI taking over all these coding tasks,
right.
it's natural for programmers to be like, wait a minute, what about me?
Yeah.
Like, is there a chance that AI could just replace human programmers?
That's a question a lot of people are thinking about, and rightfully so.
Yeah.
But while these AI assistants are crazy powerful, I really don't think we need to worry about them replacing us anytime soon. In fact, I think the future of programming is all about collaboration, not replacement.
So it's not like AI versus humans.
Right.
It's about AI and humans working together.
It's a partnership, it's a collaboration to create something even better.
Okay, so how do you see that kind of playing out? Like, what's an analogy for this?
I like to think of it like the relationship between an architect and a construction crew.
Okay.
So the architect designs the building,
Uh-huh.
but then it's the construction crew that makes it real.
Right.
They both have these really essential roles in creating this beautiful and functional structure.
So the AI assistants are like the tools that are empowering us to build like more innovative and more complex systems,
Right.
but it's still us,
Yeah.
the human programmers who are driving the process
Absolutely.
and like shaping the overall vision.
Yeah. Exactly. So that's why it's so important for programmers to embrace these tools and figure out how to use them effectively
Right.
and adapt their skills to
Yeah.
this new collaborative world.
So it's not about fearing AI.
No.
It's about viewing it as like a powerful ally, like a partner that can help you do really amazing things.
Exactly. And as these AI tools keep getting better and better, we need to stay informed and experiment and really embrace these possibilities.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive
Yeah,
into these AI coding assistants.
for sure.
We've explored the different types of AI, how they're evaluated, strengths and weaknesses, even looked at some of those exciting developments coming down the pipeline.
Yeah.
But before we wrap up, I think it'd be helpful to step back and maybe summarize some key takeaways for our listeners.
I agree. I think the big takeaway is there's no one perfect AI for every situation.
Right.
It's about choosing the right tool for what you're trying to do.
Right, like we were saying.
ChatGPT, it's amazing for those conversational abilities, generating that human-like text.
So it's perfect for things like documentation, explaining complicated code.
Yeah.
Then you've got Gemini, which is all about working with all sorts of media, text, images, audio, even video.
Yeah.
It can really bridge that gap between like the design world and the development world.
That's super cool.
It is.
And then, of course, we have AlphaCode,
Oh yeah, AlphaGo.
the problem solver,
Yes.
ready to tackle those super challenging programming problems,
Yeah,
optimize code performance.
exactly.
And then we've got our helpful teammate, GitHub Copilot,
Yes, Copilot.
providing those real-time suggestions right in your code editor.
Yeah, boosting your productivity.
Helping you write better code faster.
Absolutely.
It's like having this whole team of AI specialists, each with their own kind of area of expertise.
It really is, yeah.
It's amazing to think about how much these tools have already changed things
I know.
in programming.
It's incredible.
And it feels like we're just scratching the surface
Oh yeah, absolutely.
of what's possible.
With AI in software development.
Totally. And you see that, like, just in the way Copilot is already evolving.
Yeah.
With Copilot X, adding voice and chat,
Right.
integrating AI even deeper into the development process.
It really makes you wonder, like, what's next?
What is next?
Are we going to be coding entirely with our voices? Will AI be writing entire applications?
Those are great questions.
Yeah.
And while I don't have a crystal ball, I can say with some confidence that AI will continue to play a bigger and bigger role in shaping the future of software development.
Yeah. But even with all these advancements, I keep coming back to that question of like, what does it mean for us, for the human programmers?
Right.
Are we going to be obsolete?
I really don't think so. In fact, I think the role of the human programmer is probably more important now than ever before. These AI assistants are powerful, but they're still just tools, right? They need human guidance. They need human creativity and ingenuity.
So it's not about AI replacing us. It's about AI augmenting us.
Exactly.
It's about freeing us up to focus on the things that humans do best,
Yes,
like thinking critically,
for sure.
solving problems creatively,
Absolutely.
understanding the needs of our users.
It's a partnership.
Right.
It's a collaboration between humans and AI.
And by embracing that,
Right.
we can really push the boundaries of what's possible
Totally.
in software development.
For sure.
It's an exciting time to be a programmer.
It really is.
With all these new tools at our disposal, we can really build software that's smarter, more efficient, more impactful than ever before.
Absolutely.
And as we explore the possibilities of AI in coding, I think it's essential to approach it with, like, a sense of curiosity,
Yeah,
a willingness to learn and adapt,
for sure.
and a sense of responsibility.
Absolutely.
So to kind of wrap up this deep dive into AI coding assistance, I want to leave our listeners with a final thought.
Okay.
Don't be afraid to experiment with these tools. See how they fit into what you do and how they can help you be a better programmer.
Yeah, that's great advice.
And remember,
Yeah.
the future of software development,
Yeah,
it's a collaborative one
it is.
where humans and AI work together to create some really amazing things.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
So until next time, happy coding.
I think that's a great point to end on.
Yeah, experiment. See how it works for you.
Definitely. I mean, these tools have so much potential.
Yeah, it's an exciting time to be a programmer.
Absolutely. The future is collaborative.
All right, thanks for joining us for this deep dive
Yeah, this was fun.
into the world of AI coding assistants.
For sure.
Until next time.
See you later.